Alright, hello everyone, how are you all doing today? I myself am a little worried because this idea of tearing down our history is spreading like wildfire through the rioters' minds. They are now attacking things that that don't have anything to do with police brutality, and the media is still trying to defend the rioters as peaceful protesters and tearing down monuments and statues. I don't believe is a peaceful act in any way. And now armed militias are coming out to defend these historical places, and things are going to only get worse. This is going to start a snowballing effect. They brought the violence first. I will guarantee you that, though, because people wouldn't have the need to take up arms if they felt safe, if they felt that these guys were just busybodies with a large platforming, speaking of their sensibilities and stuff. And that's one of their major arguments too, is that they are doing this to conform things to modern sensibilities, but it's their sensibilities, not my sensibilities. I want these statues to stay up because they continue to remind us of what happened in the past, what we should be leaving in the past, and not really continuing on this cycle of hate or anything of that nature. But this is going to get bigger and now because it's escalated. These people started it by beating up people randomly who had nothing to do with their stupid movement, and now in an order to defend themselves, people have taken up their arms to defend these statues. And if this doesn't cause the other side to grab weapons as well and start firefights over these things, I don't know what else is going to happen, because it has to stop somewhere, and it's just going to keep escalating though. Oh, oh man. Well, so we can get into this article. With that being said, man shot as New Mexico protesters try to remove Spanish conquistador statue. Police named a militia group member arrested on suspicion of aggravated battery. It was self-defense. These guys were beating up on him, chasing him down. The guy who was shot had a skateboard in his hand and was trying to beat him further. And these people are the victims. Police in Albuquerque have named a member of a militia group who was arrested after a man was shot in New Mexico City on Monday night, as protesters tried to tear down a bronze statue of a Spanish conquistador outside the city museum. Again, how is this peacefully protesting? Well, they don't have the word peaceful in there, but they're not using any sort of language that would tell you what these people really are, and they are insane. Authorities later announced that the statue would be removed until the next steps could be determined. The man who was shot was taken to a hospital and listed in critical but stable condition. An Albuquerque police spokesman, Gilbert Gallegos, said, adding that police used tear gas and flashbangs to protect officers who intervened. See how quickly these people turn to the police, though? Instantly. Oh, we're gonna beat this guy up, but he has a gun and he's gonna defend himself, so we have to call the police on these guys because we don't know how to defend ourselves. We don't know how to live with the consequences of our actions. The man who was shot, a group of armed men had tried to protect the statue, a bronze of the Spanish conquistador Juan de Oñate, as protesters wrapped a chain around it and began pulling while chanting, "Tear it down." One protester repeatedly swung a pickaxe at the base of the statue. And see, they are clearly doing these violent acts trying to get their aggression out somehow, and these people just wanted to get it to stop by defending these statues. Moments later, gunshots were heard. The scene turned into chaos as people ran for cover. Police in riot gear could be seen taking at least 2 people into custody as some protesters heckled the officers. Really, gunshots were fired and you're still attacking the police too, who are trying to keep some order here? Then again, it should have never gotten to this point, but the police aren't being allowed to do anything. It was more than 2 hours before the area was cleared. Albuquerque police first said that they received reports of vigilante groups investigating violence, though they were not certain who was responsible for the shooting. The FBI confirmed it was assisting local authorities. Oh, so this is where they all get involved. Not when people are being brutally beaten by fists, but as soon as someone gets a gun out to defend themselves, all these people come out and try to make villains of the people who are trying to do the right thing in their own opinions. And once again, it was self-defense. On Tuesday, a police statement said detectives arrested Stephen Ray Baca, 31, and that he was held on suspicion of aggravated battery, even though he was getting his ass kicked by 3 people at the very least, being chased down by a whole mob. Authorities previously said several people were detained for questioning. Online court records did not list an attorney for Baca who could comment on his behalf. The shooting tonight was a tragic, outrageous, and unacceptable act of violence, and it has no place in our city. But you don't mention why it got to that point. It got to that point because you aren't doing anything to stop these people. Mayor Tim Keller said in a statement, "Our diverse community will not be deterred by acts meant to divide or silence us." But bending over backwards and just taking it doesn't solve anything either. Our hearts go out to the victims, his family, and witnesses whose lives were needlessly threatened tonight. They weren't threatened. They were the aggressors. They were chasing people down. This sculpture has become an urgent matter of public safety. The Democratic New Mexico Governor Michael Lujan Grisham issued a statement in which she said, Michelle, sorry. She said that armed groups had been there to menace protesters, no matter who struck first, she said, but she's clearly blaming the militia group. There would be no room in New Mexico for any sort of escalation of what she calls reckless, violent rhetoric. Absolutely insane. The violence came just hours after activists in northern New Mexico celebrated the removal of another likeness of Oñate that was on public display at a cultural center in community of Alcalde. A forklift pried the massive bronze statue of the conquistador on horseback from a concrete pedestal. Cheers erupted among bystanders who saw memorial as an affront to indigenous people and an obstacle to greater racial harmony, though several people also arrived to defend the statue. Which is just insane. Again, I'm sorry for repeating myself so often, but these people don't bother to learn their history and now they're actively erasing it with however they can. The community manager, Thomas Campos, said that the statue was placed in storage for its own protection, which is a good call, I would say, rather than having these people get up in arms and cause more violence. They just take all out the targeted their target. The county manager, Thomas Campos, was placed. He expected a 3-member county commission to solicit public comment on what to do next with the Public Works project, which was commissioned by the state in the early 1990s. This is public property, and I'm not going to allow it to be damaged, he said. Plus, I don't feel like risking my sheriff's deputies or state police to defend it. Again, a good call from Tomas. Oñate, who arrived in New Mexico in 1598, is celebrated as a cultural father figure in communities along the upper Rio Grande who trace their ancestry to Spanish settlers, but he is also reviled for his brutality. To Native Americans, Oñate is known for having ordered the right feet cut off of 24 captive tribal warriors. After the killing of his nephew in 1998, someone saw the right foot of the alcalde statue, which is just basic history, people attacking other people, and there's no way to write history. I don't mean as in written down, but to make the past mistakes up in the current. You just let them be, I would say. Luis Pina of Española, an artist and computer network engineer, stated in a public petition last week to remove the statue in Alcalde. He said he was heartened to see it taken off display. Of course you guys would. Fucking course. Removal of the statue was followed by heated roadside discussions about local history. Under the gaze of a half-dozen deputies, Tony Valerio, 65, rushed into the site after a neighbor alerted him that the statue was being taken down. "He's my hero. He brought a lot of good things to New Mexico," Valerio said of Oñate. "What's next? The Statue of Liberty? And I bet there's plans for it too." These people are getting very high on themselves. The media is just blowing up air in their asses, and they're acting with impunity. The cops aren't even allowed to settle them down or anything. Lujan Grisham, who has campaigned on her heritage as a 12th generation New Mexican, called the statue's removal a step in the right direction, but she'll never tell you why or give you reasons. By Monday evening, dozens had joined in the celebratory gathering, with Native American dancing and drumming outside the cultural center, where demonstrators left handprints in red paint on the empty pedestal. Aren't these people the ones who constantly complain about cultural appropriation, and now they're doing this? Especially when they don't have any ties. Well, apparently they do have ties to the history, but they have more ties to Oñate than they do the Native Americans. Monuments to European conquistadors and colonists around the world are being pulled down amid an intense re-examination of racial injustice in the wake of George Floyd's death at the hands of police, which we've all already agreed was a very bad thing to happen. There was no reason for George to die the way that he did. But all this stuff happening in his name has to stop somewhere. It's escalating and getting more dangerous in certain parts of America. I will have to remind you that this isn't happening all across America. Some people think that this is all of America that's getting this type of treatment, but it's at maximum 25 cities out of 300, meaning the majority of people do not stand with these people, but they're not even allowed to stand against them either. People are losing their jobs over the crappiest reasons. I left a like on Twitter, and now I'm being kicked out of my job. Crazy, man, crazy. Well, that's all I have to say about that. The article has ended. Further below is them trying to virtue signal and ask for donations so that they can keep their crappy website up. This article was, of course, brought to you by The Guardian. And I'm done for the day. I'm done for this video. I'll have a more lighthearted one later on the price reveal of the PS5. Or, not a reveal, a supposed price leak. And this one is in the complete opposite direction of the last one. Anyways, take care.